Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. The sunscreen bottle sat between my wife's feet in the sand, and I watched Kyle Voss's hands move across her shoulders like he'd done this 100 times before. Which, I realized with cold certainty, he probably had. I'm Neil Brennan, 42 years old, and I design bridges for a living. I spend my days calculating stress tolerances and load capacities, understanding exactly how much weight a structure can bear before it fails. I know the precise mathematics of structural integrity. What I apparently don't understand is my own marriage, or the exact point at which 17 years of trust finally buckles under the weight of betrayal. The Alabama sun beat down on Gulf Shores Beach, the kind of humid heat that makes your shirt stick to your back within minutes. June in coastal Alabama isn't subtle about its weather. Neither, it seemed, was my wife about her affair. "Becca, want me to get your back?" I offered, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it anyway. "Kyle's already got it, hon," she said without looking at me. "You're always so worried about sunscreen." His hands moved lower, fingers spreading white cream along her spine with practiced familiarity. She arched slightly under his touch, her body responding in a way that made my stomach turn. I counted 43 seconds before he finished. 43 seconds too long. 43 seconds that confirmed what I'd been refusing to see for months. "All set, Beck," Kyle said, using my nickname for her. The nickname I'd given her during our honeymoon in Key West, 17 years ago, when we still knew how to be happy together. The beach was crowded with families from our Fairhope Beach Club, an organization that sounds more exclusive than it actually is. 8 families total, gathered for our annual June trip to Gulf Shores Public Beach. We'd been making this trip for 5 years, ever since Claire was 10 and Owen was 6. Back when I still thought annual traditions meant something about family stability. Tom and Amanda Whitfield were setting up their oversized umbrella, the expensive kind with UV protection and sand pockets. Ross and Heather Kincaid were arguing about the cooler placement, their usual passive-aggressive dance disguised as concern about food safety. Simone Fletcher, my wife's best friend who'd been living in our guest house for 6 months while supposedly house hunting, was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something calculating behind her sunglasses. My daughter Claire, 15 and sharper than I'd ever been at that age, whispered near my ear. "Mom's being weird with Mr. Voss. Just being friendly, sweetheart." "Dad, that's not friendly. That's something else." She had her mother's directness, but she'd inherited my attention to detail. "They've been sitting like that for 20 minutes. And did you see how he looked at her when we got here? That's not a friendly look." I looked back at my wife. She was laughing at something Kyle said, her hand resting on his forearm. They sat so close their knees touched. Inside jokes. Shared glances. The kind of easy intimacy that comes from spending significant time together. Tom I didn't know about. Patterns clicked into place like puzzle pieces I'd been refusing to see. New clothes over the past 3 months. Expensive brands from boutiques she'd never shopped at before. Evening Pilates classes that ran late, sometimes not getting home until 11 at night. Overnight shifts at the hospital that seemed to multiply every week. Her phone constantly face down on every surface, password protected when it had never been before. "I think I'm going to head back early," I announced to no one in particular. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, flat and controlled. Becca finally turned around, Kyle's hand still resting on her shoulder like it belonged there. "What? Neil, don't be ridiculous. We have 2 more days. Owen's sailing competition is Monday. I should make sure his equipment is ready." The lie came easily, which should have bothered me more than it did. "The competition is next week," Claire said quietly, looking at her phone. "Teenage fact-checker, my daughter." "Prep work," I said, already pulling up the airline app on my phone. "Mobile Regional Airport. Any flights to anywhere that gets us home tonight." He was just putting cream on my back. Becca's voice carried across the beach, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Stop making scenes and go home if it bothers you." The group went quiet. 7 other families, 23 people total, all suddenly very interested in their beach towels and coolers. Then came the awkward laughter, the kind that fills uncomfortable silences and judges the person who created the discomfort. Poor Neil, making something out of nothing. Overprotective husband who can't tell the difference between friendship and infidelity. Can't he see they're just being friendly? I stood there holding beach bags and a cooler, invisible to every person on that beach except my daughter. Claire's hand found mine, squeezed once. Solidarity from a 15-year-old who'd figured out in 20 minutes what I'd been denying for 4 months. Then she spent hours laughing with him while I stood there invisible to our friends. I would later tell my lawyer. I said nothing, booked a flight that night, packed my bags, and left the room empty. The next morning, her vacation changed completely. But first, I had to get home. I packed while the group was still at the beach. 3 suitcases, methodical and efficient, the way I approach everything. Clothes folded properly. Toiletries organized. Kids' beach toys rinsed and dried. Even in crisis, habits persist. Found Becca's phone charger plugged into the wall by her side of the bed. Noticed she'd taken her phone with her to the beach. Unusual. She normally complained that sand ruined phone cases. Always left it in the room during beach days. But apparently today, she needed it with her. Probably to text Kyle without me seeing. Checked the family laptop that we kept in the rental for looking up restaurants and beach conditions. Browser history cleared. Also unusual. Becca wasn't particularly tech-savvy, had never cleared a browser history in her life that I knew of. Someone had told her to. Someone more careful about covering tracks. Booked 3 tickets on the 9 p.m. flight from Mobile to Birmingham, then on to Nashville. We drive back to Fairhope from there. Expensive and inconvenient, but I needed out. Needed distance between myself and that beach. Between myself and the sound of my wife laughing at another man's jokes while I stood there holding her bags like hired help. Left a note on the bed. Careful handwriting on hotel stationery. Took the kids home. You stay and enjoy your vacation. We'll talk when you're ready. The irony wasn't lost on me. She wanted me to go home if it bothered me. So I went. Took our children with me. Let her have her vacation with Kyle, exactly as she seemed to want. Found Claire and Owen on the beach. Claire came immediately. Owen protested until I mentioned ice cream on the drive. My phone started buzzing before we reached the airport. 6:47 p.m. Where are you? 6:52 p.m. Neil, this isn't funny. Where are the kids? 7:01 p.m. You took them without telling me? 7:15 p.m. Answer your phone now. 7:33 p.m. Fine. I'll see you tomorrow night. We will discuss this. I didn't respond to any of them. We got home around sunrise Sunday morning. The drive from Nashville to Fairhope takes about 6 hours if you don't stop. I stopped once at a gas station outside Birmingham, bought coffee, and let the kids use the bathroom. Claire and Owen had fallen asleep in the car before we reached the Alabama state line. I carried them inside one at a time, tucked them into their beds in our house on South Mobile Street in Fairhope's historic district. Their rooms smelled familiar, safe. Owen's like ocean air and boy sweat. Claire's like the lavender room spray she discovered at Target. I let them sleep until mid-morning, then woke them gently. Told them we were going to Grandma's house for a sleepover. Owen was excited. Claire gave me a look that said she understood more than I was saying, but she didn't argue. By noon, they were settled at my mother's house in Daphne, 20 minutes away. Safe. Protected from whatever confrontation was coming. Then I drove back home, sat in my home office, surrounded by blueprints and engineering manuals, and started doing what I do best. I collected evidence, organized data, built a case with the same precision I used to design bridge supports. The shared iPad still had Becca's email logged in. She'd forgotten to sign out before the trip. Careless, for someone who'd been so careful otherwise. Or maybe she'd just gotten comfortable in her deception, stopped worrying about being caught because her husband was so oblivious, so clueless about social dynamics. There was a folder labeled Continuing Education. Medical conferences, I would have assumed if I'd seen it before. Now I knew better. I opened it. 67 emails between my wife and Kyle Voss, dating back 4 months to February. I read every single one. Watched my marriage dissolve one message at a time. April 15th. Can't stop thinking about yesterday at the marina. Neil's working late on the bridge project all week. Come over Wednesday after Simone leaves for her sales trip. May 2nd. He's so oblivious. I could probably bring you to the house for dinner, and he'd just talk about load-bearing calculations. May 20th. The beach trip will be perfect. Everyone will be there. We can be together all day, and he'll just think we're being friendly. You know how clueless engineers are about social dynamics. May 28th. Simone says I should just tell him, but why rock the boat? He's happy with his bridges and the kids. This is just for me. I read every word. Then I opened the credit card statements, cross-referenced dates, built timelines. This is what engineers do. We find patterns. We identify weak points. We understand exactly where and why structures fail. $12,000 in 3 months. Fairhope Boutiques, I'd never heard her mention. 3 trips to Bella Vita Spa and Mobile at $400 each. Dinner at Wash House Restaurant on March 22nd, the night Becca claimed she had a mandatory hospital dinner for new administrators. Total bill, $273 for 2 people. I'd eaten leftover pizza at home with the kids that night. A hotel charge from the Battle House Renaissance Mobile, $340, dated April 18th. The day Becca told me she was working a double shift because they were short-staffed in the ER. I'd texted her good luck at 9 p.m. She'd responded at 9:15, exhausted but hanging in there. From a hotel room with Kyle Voss, apparently. I pulled up our phone records from the shared family account. We'd always had a family plan, transparent billing, nothing to hide. Except Becca had been hiding plenty. 247 calls to Kyle's mobile number in 90 days. Most between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., the hours when I was asleep, and she claimed to be working or at her Pilates class or running errands. Most lasting 20 to 45 minutes. I did the math. That's over 4,000 minutes. 67 hours. Nearly 3 full days spent talking to the man she was sleeping with while her husband worked late on bridge designs to support her expensive new lifestyle. I'm a structural engineer. I understand how to analyze data, identify patterns, calculate probability. The probability that my wife of 17 years had been faithful? 0. I created a spreadsheet. Cross-referenced her claimed overnight shifts with the hospital's publicly posted schedule. 11 shifts that didn't exist. Then I forwarded the most damaging emails to my personal account, cleared the browser history, encrypted the files, and stored them in 3 separate cloud locations. Changed the locks on every door in the house at 7 a.m. Sunday morning. The locksmith looked at me with sympathy. He'd seen this before. By the time Becca's car pulled up at 9:30 p.m. Sunday evening, her belongings were packed and waiting on the front porch. 3 suitcases, 2 boxes, everything she'd need for an extended stay. I'd been methodical about it. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, her medical textbooks, favorite coffee mug. Nothing forgotten, nothing kept back out of spite. Just a clean separation of her life from mine. She tried her key. It didn't work. The confusion on her face would have been comical if any part of this situation was funny. She tried again, jiggling the key like maybe she'd just inserted it wrong. Then she rang the doorbell, pounding on the door when I didn't answer immediately. I watched through the window, waiting. Let her ring 3 more times. Let her feel what it's like to be locked out of something you thought was yours. Finally, I opened it. Stood in the doorway, blocking her entrance with my body. Neil, what the hell is this? Your things are here. Everything you'll need. This is my house. Let me in right now. Actually, it's my house. I kept my voice level calm. You insisted we put it in my name for your medical school loan forgiveness program 5 years ago. Remember? The federal program that forgives loans if you work in underserved areas and keep your assets limited? You were very specific about wanting the house solely in my name. Something about protecting your debt-to-asset ratio. Her face changed. Calculation replacing anger. She was remembering. Realizing the strategic error she'd made half a decade ago when her primary concern was loan forgiveness rather than asset protection in a divorce. You can't lock me out of my own home. I can lock out whoever I want. You don't live here anymore. Where are my children? Our children are at my mother's in Daphne. They're fine. This is insane. Over what? Me having a friend help with sunscreen? Over Kyle Voss. Over 4 months of lying. Over 247 phone calls at midnight. Over hotel rooms and dinners, and every overnight shift that never happened. The color drained from her face. You went through my phone. I went through the evidence you left scattered everywhere. For someone smart enough to be a doctor, you were remarkably careless. We need to talk about this. We will. Through lawyers. Yours should contact mine by Wednesday. Neil, please. You made me invisible, Becca. You said so yourself in your emails. I was so oblivious, so clueless. You could do anything, and I wouldn't even notice. Well, I noticed. And now everyone else is going to notice too. I closed the door, locked it, watched through the window as she tried calling Simone. No answer. She tried the guest house behind our property. Found that locked too. Eventually, she drove away. My phone started buzzing throughout the night. 9:47 p.m. This is illegal. I'm calling my lawyer. 10 p.m. You can't keep me from my children. Fine. I'll stay at Simone's condo. 11 p.m. Answer me, you bastard. 12 p.m. We can work through this. Please. I didn't respond. Just set my alarm for 6 a.m. I had work to do. Monday morning, I drove to Daphne before dawn to collect Claire and Owen from my mother's house. By 7 a.m., we were home and I was making breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, orange juice. Normal routine. Owen asked where Mom was. Claire gave him a look that said not now. After Owen went to brush his teeth, Claire cornered me in the kitchen. Dad, I need to tell you something. Mom's been weird for months. Weird how? Texting constantly. She went to Mr. Voss's store 3 times last month. I was with her once. She said she was getting something for Owen's sailing stuff, but she was in there for over an hour and came out with nothing. Did you see them together? They were in the back office. The door was open a little. I heard him call her beautiful. Why didn't you tell me? I thought maybe I was wrong, and I didn't want to be right. I pulled her into a hug. You're a good kid. So what happens now? Now we move forward. You and Owen are my priority. Everything else is just details. Are you going to destroy her? The question surprised me. Claire was watching me with those sharp, evaluating eyes. I'm going to make sure she faces consequences for her choices. That's different. Good, Claire said. Because she deserves it. At 2 p.m., I walked into Fairhope Brewing Company downtown. The brewery was busy for a Monday afternoon, locals taking advantage of happy hour pricing and the pleasant weather. Met my old college roommate Alex Portman at the bar. Alex had become a civil rights attorney, made good money representing plaintiffs in discrimination cases. Smart guy, good friend, and exactly the person I needed to talk to about divorce lawyers. Ostensibly, we were there to discuss legal questions about a bridge project. Actually, I needed divorce recommendations, and I needed to plant information in the right ears. We sat at the bar, not in a corner booth. Visibility was important. Stephanie was working, and Stephanie was the most efficient information distribution system in Fairhope. Mentioning something to Stephanie was like posting it on a billboard downtown. She knew everyone, talked to everyone, remembered everything. So she was with him at the beach? Alex asked, loud enough to carry to the neighboring bar stools. In front of everyone? Your kids were there? And she's been staying at his place since I locked her out Saturday night. I confirmed, watching Stephanie's eyes widen from behind the bar. Man, that's brutal. How long do you think it's been going on? Evidence suggests 4 months, maybe longer. Started in February at the latest. For months. Jesus. Alex shook his head, playing his part perfectly. And you had no idea? She was careful. Or thought she was. Used work email for personal messages, cleared browser history, password protected her phone. But she forgot we had a shared iPad. Left herself logged in. Stephanie pulled out her phone, was texting someone before I'd finished my sentence. Mission accomplished. By dinner time, half of Fairhope knew that Becca Brennan had left her husband for Kyle Voss. Tuesday morning, I drove to Thomas Hospital. Asked to see the hospital administrator, Dennis Carmichael. Told the receptionist I needed to update emergency contact information. Carmichael met me in his office, professional and sympathetic. Mr. Brennan, you could have handled this with HR. I wanted to make sure it was done properly. My wife and I are separating. I'm sorry to hear that. She's been staying with Kyle Voss. Do you know him? The marine supply owner? I've met him at fundraisers. I need to make sure if there's an emergency with our children, the hospital contacts me first. She's been distracted lately. Working a lot of night shifts. Carmichael's expression shifted. He checked his computer. Dr. Brennan hasn't worked a night shift in 6 weeks. Is that right? She told me she worked 3 last month alone. The silence that followed told me my message had landed. I'll make sure your contact information is updated as primary, Carmichael said. By Wednesday, Becca's professional reputation was starting to fracture. That evening, Tom and Amanda Whitfield invited me for dinner. Their 3 kids played upstairs with Owen while Claire babysat. Over pot roast and wine, they told me what they'd seen. Kyle's truck was in your driveway 3 times in April, Tom said. Always weekday afternoons. Why didn't anyone tell me? Amanda looked uncomfortable. We thought you knew. When nothing was said, we figured you had some kind of arrangement. The way Becca dismissed you at the beach, Tom added, We realized you didn't know. That's why we wanted to talk. There's something else, Amanda said quietly. I saw Simone and Kyle together at Page and Palette Bookstore in April. In the coffee shop section, they were holding hands. When they saw me, they pulled apart quickly. Simone said they were discussing a business opportunity. The pieces fell into place. Simone wasn't just enabling the affair. She was part of it. How long have they been together? I asked. I don't know, Amanda said. But that was 2 months ago. I thanked them for dinner, drove home, put the kids to bed, then spent 4 hours going through every shared digital account we had. Found photos Becca thought she'd deleted. Her and Kyle at Fairhope Pier in March, his arm around her waist. A screenshot of a group text between Becca, Simone, and Kyle from April. Simone writing, "Don't feel guilty, B. You deserve happiness." Kyle responding, "Neil doesn't appreciate you anyway." And then, the smoking gun, a receipt photo from the Grand Hotel in Point Clear dated May 3rd. 2 rooms booked. One under Kyle Voss, one under Simone Fletcher. But Becca's credit card had paid for both. She'd been financing her best friend's affair with her own affair partner. Thursday afternoon, I met with Patricia Meadows, a divorce attorney in Mobile. Brought printed copies of everything. Emails, photos, financial records, timeline. Patricia reviewed the evidence with professional efficiency. This is one of the most documented cases I've seen. I'm an engineer. Details matter. The financial records alone make this straightforward. She spent marital funds on an affair. That matters in Alabama. We discussed strategy. File for divorce on grounds of adultery. Seek primary physical custody. Request reimbursement of the $12,000. No alimony. She earned more and had committed adultery. I'll file Monday, Patricia said. She'll be served at the hospital. Saturday evening, I took Claire and Owen to the Fairhope Single Tax Colony celebration downtown. This is Fairhope's signature annual event, celebrating the town's unique founding as a single tax colony in 1894. Half the town was there. At least 1,500 people gathered around the streets near the Fairhope Pier, vendors selling crafts and food, live music from the bandstand, kids running between adults with glow sticks. Becca was there too, standing near the art vendors with a group of women from the hospital. So was Kyle, staying carefully 20 feet away near the beer garden, surrounded by his usual crowd of boating enthusiasts and local business owners. And Simone, circulating alone, looking uncomfortable in a way that suggested she knew something had changed but wasn't sure what. I made my rounds with the kids. Owen wanted funnel cake. Claire wanted to look at the jewelry booths. Normal family activities, appearing completely normal to anyone watching. The grieving husband staying home alone. That would suggest I had something to hide. The father out with his children, participating in community events. That suggested confidence, righteousness, the moral high ground. Strategic conversations, carefully worded, deployed like precision instruments. Eleanor Hartley, our 73-year-old neighbor who'd lived on South Mobile Street for 40 years, approached with sympathy radiating from her expression. Mrs. Hartley knew everyone's business, had a network of friends who met for coffee every morning at Page and Palette Bookstore to discuss the latest developments in Fairhope drama. "Neil, dear, how are you holding up?" "Managing, Mrs. Hartley. It's been an adjustment, but the kids are doing well. That's what matters. I can't imagine what you're going through. And she's living with that boatman now? Kyle something?" "Kyle Voss, yes. Though Simone Fletcher is staying there too. My wife's best friend from medical school. They're all very close." I let the statement hang, ambiguous and loaded with implication. Mrs. Hartley's eyes widened behind her glasses. "All 3 of them, living together in his house. It's a modern arrangement, I suppose. Not something I understand. But then again, I'm just a bridge engineer. We're pretty traditional about these things." I moved on, leaving the implication hanging like smoke in still air. Mrs. Hartley would have that information distributed to her entire network by morning coffee. Had similar conversations with 5 other people, each time dropping the same details. The affair started in March. She's been using marital funds. She's staying at Kyle's house. So is Simone. By the time fireworks started, the story had spread. Becca Brennan had left her husband for Kyle Voss, and somehow her best friend was involved too. Becca approached me during the fireworks, when the noise gave us privacy. "What are you telling people?" "The truth. You're destroying my reputation." "No, you did that yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows the facts." "The kids. are watching fireworks with their father, where they're supposed to be. I walked away, left her standing alone in a crowd. Sunday afternoon, the triangle collapsed. I wasn't there, but I heard about it later from multiple sources. Becca, Kyle, and Simone had a confrontation at Kyle's waterfront house. Voices loud enough that neighbors heard. The question of why Neil thought Simone was involved came up. Kyle demanded answers. Simone admitted she and Kyle had been dating before Becca's affair started. Becca realized her best friend had manipulated her into an affair to provide cover for Simone's own relationship. That Simone had been sleeping with Kyle the entire time. That Becca had been paying for hotel rooms and boat trips for both of them. By evening, Becca had moved to the Hampton Inn. Alone, Simone had driven back to Georgia. Kyle wanted nothing to do with either of them. Monday morning, a process server walked into Thomas Hospital's emergency department during the middle of Becca's shift, served her divorce papers in front of nurses, physicians, and patients. The papers included adultery grounds, primary custody requests, and a demand for $12,000 in reimbursement. Attached were printed copies of key emails. My note read, "You wanted to talk. Here are my terms." Monday evening, Becca called me. I answered, "You've destroyed everything." "No, you destroyed it. I'm just making sure it's official. I'll fight you on custody." "With what? Evidence of your affair? Financial fraud? Lying to your employer? Go ahead. I'm their mother. You were their mother. Now you're the woman who left them for an affair." "Neil, please. Can we talk? In person? What's there to talk about? How we got here? Why this happened? Maybe we can fix this." "We can't. You saw to that. I made mistakes. You made choices. For months of choices. Hundreds of lies. Thousands of dollars. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. I was unhappy. Then you should have told me. Or left. But you stayed, you lied, and you humiliated me in front of everyone. That's cruelty." Silence. Then crying. "I'm sorry." "You're sorry now that you're caught. Now that it cost you something. What do you want from me? Sign the papers. Repay the money. Explain to Claire and Owen why you chose to leave them. And live with what you've done. You just want me to suffer? I want you to accept consequences." She asked about Simone. I told her the truth, that I'd known since Tuesday. That Simone had been involved with Kyle for 8 months. That Becca had been paying for their affair the whole time. The sound she made was something between a gasp and a sob. Friday afternoon, we met at the Grand Hotel Golf Resort and Spa in Point Clear, about 20 minutes south of Fairhope on Mobile Bay. The hotel is a Southern institution, opened in 1847, rebuilt after fires and hurricanes, standing as a testament to endurance and tradition. Becca and I had our wedding reception here 17 years earlier, in the Magnolia Ballroom overlooking the bay. 200 guests, open bar, shrimp and grits station that people still mentioned at parties. We danced until midnight, her in her white dress, me in my rented tux, both of us believing we were building something that would last as long as the hotel itself. Becca had requested this meeting to discuss settlement terms. Wanted neutral ground. When she suggested the Grand Hotel, I'd agreed immediately. The symbolism was too perfect to resist. Beginning and ending in the same place. Except this time there would be no dancing, no celebration, no future. Both attorneys were present. Patricia Meadows for me, crisp and professional in a navy suit. Catherine Weston for Becca, older and more experienced, known for winning difficult cases through aggressive negotiation. We sat in a private conference room on the second floor overlooking Mobile Bay. Through the windows, I could see sailboats on the water, pelicans diving for fish, tourists walking the hotel's private beach. Beautiful afternoon, 78 degrees, light breeze. Perfect weather for destroying what remained of a marriage. Becca proposed her terms first. Joint custody with equal parenting time. She'd repay $6,000, half of what she'd spent on the affair. In exchange, I would remove adultery as grounds for divorce and agree to seal all records. Keep it private, Catherine explained. Protect both parties' reputations. Allow Dr. Brennan to continue her career without this following her. I listened without interrupting. Then presented my counterproposal. Primary physical custody to me with standard visitation for her. Every other weekend, 1 weeknight per week. Full repayment of all $12,000. Adultery grounds remain in the divorce filing. All evidence becomes part of the public record. She pays all legal fees for both sides. These terms are punitive, Catherine said, her voice sharp. Unnecessarily cruel. They're fair, I replied calmly. She committed adultery. She spent marital funds on her affair. She abandoned our children for her relationship with Kyle Voss. She's fortunate I'm not pursuing criminal fraud charges for the financial misappropriation. Criminal charges? Becca's voice cracked, color draining from her face. They're fair, I replied. She committed adultery, spent marital funds on her affair, and abandoned our children. She's lucky I'm not pursuing fraud charges. Criminal charges? Becca's voice cracked. I won't. Unless you refuse reasonable terms. Joint custody is reasonable. You left them. You chose an affair over being their mother. Why should you get equal custody? Because I love them. You love them when it's convenient. When it doesn't interfere with your other priorities. You're doing this because you hate me. I'm doing this because you made me invisible. You said it in your emails. I was so clueless, so boring that you could betray me in front of everyone and I wouldn't notice. Well, I noticed. And now everyone else knows it too. She broke down, full tears, shaking shoulders. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. Every day, every lie, every secret smile with Kyle, every dollar you spent on your affair, every time you came home and pretended to be my wife. I pulled out a folder. Bank records showing Simone had paid Kyle's marina fees. Photos of them together dating back 8 months. Text messages discussing how to keep Becca distracted. You were paying for Simone's affair with Kyle, I said. The whole time. Those hotel rooms. She was in one, Kyle in the other. You funded your own betrayal. Becca stared at the evidence. At her attorney. At me. I'll sign. All of it. Becca, we can fight this, Catherine said. No. He's right. About everything. I destroyed this. I own it. We reached settlement. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody to me. Every other weekend and 1 weeknight for her. $12,000 in repayment. Adultery as public grounds. Retirement accounts split 60-40 in my favor. She signed. I signed. The attorneys witnessed. One more thing, I said. Tell Simone she has 72 hours to move out of my property. After that, I'm filing trespassing charges. She's already gone. Moved back to Georgia yesterday. And Kyle, he's done with both of us. Said we were too much drama. At least he was honest about something. I looked around the conference room. Same room where we'd had our wedding reception after party 17 years ago. Becca noticed. Started crying harder. You chose the location, I said. I just thought it was fitting. I stood. Shook hands with both attorneys. Walked out. Left Becca sitting there, staring at Mobile Bay through the window. Saturday morning, I took Claire and Owen fishing at Fairhope Pier. Owen had caught 2 fish by 10 a.m. Claire sat reading on the dock while her brother and I cast lines into the bay. Dad, are you okay? Claire asked. Like really okay? Getting there. Some days are harder than others. Mom asked if I hated her. What did you tell her? That I don't hate her. I'm just disappointed. That's fair. Owen interrupted. Dad, can Mom come fishing with us sometime? Maybe someday, buddy. When things are better. I miss her. I know. And that's okay. You're allowed to miss her. Do you miss her? I paused. Honest moment. I miss who she used to be. Pelicans flew over the bay. Sailboats dotted the horizon. 3 of us on the pier instead of 4. Peaceful, but changed. Claire caught my expression. Squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. There are exactly 3 people in my family now. Used to be 4. But some bridges can't be rebuilt. Sometimes you have to build new ones. I'm good at that. Building things that last. Things that support weight, withstand stress, carry people safely forward. My marriage couldn't withstand Becca's choices. But my relationship with my kids? That's engineered for the long haul. 17 years. That's how long I thought I knew my wife. Turned out I didn't know her at all. But I know my children. And I know myself better than I did 2 weeks ago. The beach was 2 weeks ago. Feels like a lifetime. Becca's vacation did change completely the next morning. So did mine. So did the kids. But we're still here. Still fishing. Still laughing. And that's what matters. The rest is just wreckage in the rearview mirror. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.